I feel like we should figure out a way to harmonize work-life harmony. Just
Harmonize, like we should sing.
yeah.
That is going to be the fastest way to get unsubscribers.
People don't know this about you though, Matt. You have a great voice, a great
I
singing
can
voice.
sing Jack Johnson and Justin Bieber. Those are my. Why are you laughing?
What's your karaoke song? This is a great question. I'm not related at all to what we're going to talk about today, but what's your karaoke
not even
song?
closely related. It would have to be the Chili's, something in there. Scar Tissue, I could probably belt out pretty good.
Which, speaking of, we have a hot chili pepper trophy.
If you're listening, Holly held up our Spicy Award trophy, which is a chili pepper.
Yes. Let's see. Mine is I Love Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. That's a good one.
Give us a go. Let's go for a whirl.
Nope. On that note, welcome to the LeadrPulse Podcast, the podcast with actionable insights for leaders revolutionizing the world of work. I'm your co-host and Chief Marketing Officer here at Leadr, Holly Tate. On today's episode, Matt and Mark Kosoglow unpack the idea of what it looks like to have work-life balance. They debate on if this really is a thing. Can you have work-life balance, or is it really just work-life harmony? Then you get to hear Matt and I unpack this concept, the mistakes that we've made in our own career so far, and what we're learning about work-life balance and harmony. So here's Matt and Mark on the concept of work-life balance.
One thing I've heard you post about in the last 6 months or so is you're a CFO on the weekend and a CRO Monday through Friday. Can you talk to us a little bit about this? So my journey, after I went through a sprint season at a startup, I needed 6 months off between gigs. And I'm glad I got to take 6 months off, but I don't think that's the right way to do it. I don't think I should have had to take 6 months off, if that makes sense. So I really appreciate your idea of being a CFO on the weekend. Can you touch on what that means for everybody?
Yeah, so I'm the chief fun officer of my family. I like to be responsible for us having fun and everybody being happy. And I wouldn't say it's like the weekends. I'd say like what it happens is I learned early in my career that there's a real fallacy, and it's a word that's talked about a lot, which is work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And when a work-life balance creates a quantitative situation where you're always being like, well, I spent 9 hours at work, 7 hours with family, and 8 hours sleeping. That means tomorrow I need to do 9 hours of family, seven, you know what I mean? Like it creates this unreal, there is no balance. There's times when your job needs you more. There's time when your family needs you more. What you want is work-life harmony. You want that qualitative aspect where you feel like one is helping the other. And when one needs you, you have the freedom to go do it. And if the other one needs you, you have the freedom to go do that. But ultimately, you just want them to work in harmony with each other. Like at eight years almost at Outreach, I started there. My day started at 7 a.m. I do demos from basically 7 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. Then I would go, to soccer practice, basketball practice, dinner, put my kids and wife to bed. And then from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I just worked on operational stuff. And most people be like, Mark, you're crazy. You're going to burn yourself out. Never burnt myself out because I had harmony. My kids knew what I was doing. They realized the sacrifice I was making. They were supportive of me. They were harmonizing my personal life with my professional life. And then there were times, when my daughter was a senior and playing AAU basketball and she needed to travel over the country, she needed me there. Like she wanted me there. And you know what? So I took that time and did that. And Outreach had to deal with it just because they take another time, right? And so I believe in this, especially if you're a young manager, don't chase balance. It doesn't exist. Harmony can exist, but you have to be a very good communicator with both sets of people so everybody knows what you're doing and why. And you're not trying to like slink around like I'm taking off on Friday. Just gonna spend time with the kids.
Then you feel guilty for it, right? You're like, now I feel like I'm withdrawing from that area of my life when you shouldn't feel that way. That makes total sense. Right.
Okay, so you and Mark talked about being chief fun officer, which we kind of took this from on his LinkedIn, which if you're not following him on LinkedIn, you totally should, because he writes
every day, just very thought-provoking things. It's phenomenal.
Oh, good. Yes. But he has on his LinkedIn chief fun officer for his family right now. And so you kind of asked him about like, what does that mean? And he talked about the difference between harmony and balance. And so one thing I thought was really interesting was you kind of kicked off the conversation around like, when I left my previous role, I was burned out. So I'm curious to hear, do you agree with him that like you can't have balance, you have to have harmony? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so I think the word balance, my hot take is the word balance. You've set yourself up for fail. If you're trying to integrate work-life balance into your life, you've already lost, because there's never equilibrium. It's never going to feel like things are ever balanced, but you can create disciplines or habits, if you will, to feel like things are in harmony. So my journey is actually not too dissimilar to his. People are always envious of my journey because I took 6 months off between my last company and this company, and that's a good thing to be envious of. But I regret the fact that I had to take 6 months off. That's the difference. I wanted to take 6 months off. Don't get me wrong. Everyone loves to take a trip around the world and spend time with friends and family. But it's the fact that I was like a wraith of a person. I'd given everything to that last company, and I don't regret it for a second. Like, I met my wife there. I learned a lot there. It was fantastic. But when he described his work hours, Holly, did you pick up on that?
Oh yeah.
I think he said, what did he say? The first call was 7 to 8 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finished at
7 to
5.
6. It was
Yeah.
5 or 6 p.m. Yeah.
5 or 6. Family time, and then started again at 10 p.m. and then finished at 2. So I want to hear your story next, because I know you relate to this a lot. I didn't do quite that amount every single day, but it was close. Like, I did that for 6 years. And I look back on my life in that period, and I was just a fiend. I was just so focused on just the one thing. I definitely didn't have harmony, not even close. And so if I go, the way I'm approaching this journey is I want to be healthier at the end of the journey than I was when I started. And that means having sort of this harmonious approach to my life. So yeah, I want to hear your story, because you and I both relate to this in so many levels.
Yeah. Well, didn't you write, was it a note that you wrote to yourself or to Kaisa, your wife, and where you said like, I'm not proud of who I'm becoming or something like that?
I'm not proud of who I'm becoming. Yeah, because everything was just consumed. I mean, we've talked a lot on this podcast about our identity being so drawn in and focused within work, but everything was just consumed by that journey. And, just leaving the end of that being like, I'm not really stoked with the person I'm becoming in this process. And so that's why I needed that time.
Yeah. Yes. I have a similar story, which is why I think you and I connected. So the first time I met you, we like kind of resonated with each other on
Yeah.
this, because we spent the majority of our 20s at one organization, both of us separately, different organizations, and gave our all to that. And I did not take 6 months off after that. I jumped right into starting my own company. And a lot of that was out of scarcity mentality. I was terrified that if I took time off, which is what I really needed, because I was definitely burned out, that if I took time off, that I was not going to be able to build my business. Like, I literally wouldn't have revenue coming in. But looking back, I regret that. Like, I wish that I would have taken at least a month to get healthy before jumping into that. You saw that in me and forced me to go take 2 weeks off, which was awesome. I'm so grateful that you did that, because I needed an outside force at that time to make me do that. But yeah, I think for me, what I learned in that season, and I'm curious, you didn't go into this with Mark, but it would be interesting to hear other people's opinion on this as you're listening. But what I learned, and what I have learned again, which I'll share again, like, I've had a season of burnout actually at Leadr in my 4 years here at Leadr. The times where I've gotten burned out is where I was looking for affirmation from someone else. And in my situation, it's always been my boss or my authority figure. And I haven't gotten it. So it's like, I'm striving for their affirmation of like, you're doing a good job, Holly, which when we're looking for affirmation from an outside force and we're not finding it from within ourselves, like, we will never get there. And
Yeah.
so it makes sense. So I burn out because I'm like, please see me, please like me, please, tell me I'm doing a good job, or give me that promotion or that raise, or like whatever it is that I'm seeking.
Right.
And so it's the seasons where I'm searching for that, where I get burned out. In the seasons where I'm confident in who I am and I'm bringing my best every day and I'm okay with that, is where I could do my job for hours and hours and hours and not burn out. And so that's what I've learned. It's taken me a long time to get there. But yeah, my season at Leadr a couple years ago, where on paper I got the dream job. Like, you'd given me a new responsibility to lead over half of our company, And I was like, yes, this is what I want, And in that season, we had a lot of external headwinds. That was when the economy was really tough a couple years ago. So I had a lot of things outside of my control that I was taking on as inside of my control, and was searching for affirmation, and the results were not there that they needed to be. And so what I learned from that was like, man, and I wasn't performing at my best because I wasn't confident. I was very insecure.
Yeah.
And I got really burned out. And it took me about 3 months to get back to, we had like a recurring agenda item called like Holly getting her mojo back because it took me like 3 months to for the fog to lift after that season of burnout. So yeah, man, harmony versus balance. It
I
is
know.
not easy.
It's not easy. And I just want to applaud you for your vulnerability. You didn't have to share all of that. That's very private and was a very tough season. So kudos. And quick disclaimer also for our listeners. When I share my story, sometimes I like providing the disclaimer of, I recognize that not everybody has the financial freedom to take a few weeks off like Holly did, or take the 6 months off that I did. And so there's no guilt trip associated with this whatsoever. And I'm also not saying, and neither is Holly, that you have to take time off to get healthy. That's also not the point of our session today. So we'll unpack next some of the things that practically we've done to find some of this harmony. We're just trying to articulate how bad things got for us personally.
Yes.
And
to not be like us in that way.
Yeah, we're espousing like, don't do what we did. So no, thanks for sharing that. It's funny you said what the burnout piece is, the affirmation. For me, it's not letting people down. When I feel like I'm letting down a lot of people, that's the thing that drives me, and it's also the thing that drives me insane, which is if I feel like I'm letting a group of people down, it's very easy for me to reach that burnout phase. And some people don't like that word burnout. For me, it was just like you get into like mental cycles of just like very unhealthiness.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. And I think that's actually that's a really good. So Patrick Lencioni has shared, and I know he's doing a lot of work on this right now, around the concept of wounds and how that shows up in the workplace. And we've talked a lot about this on our executive team. And I'm curious, it would be so interesting to hear from Mark on this, but like, I think we both in our same, like me looking for affirmation and you looking to not disappoint people, probably go back to some childhood wounds that like,
Oh yeah.
We're trying to overcome in the workplace. And so when we're so fixated on that is where we have those seasons of burnout. So I think that could be a really good takeaway for all of us, is to like search for what is that thing that's unhealthy that we're trying to maybe even subconsciously heal in ourselves, rather than finding that security within ourselves or in healthy ways, to not burn out and to have that.
Really good.
Yeah.
Holly, let's share a couple, because I would say I'll speak for myself. No, I'll speak for both of us, because I've observed for you as well. We're much healthier about how we approach like work-life harmony, if you will, now than we've ever been. So should we get practical and share a couple of tips that's worked for us? So for me, a very silly, simple one is I read a lot of fiction. The worst thing that I could do for my brain on the weekends is re-engage it back into the world of software and tech. It just, I can't not think about how it applies in my context when I do that. And so I read almost exclusively fiction, and I probably drop a book or two a week. And you would not be impressed with my reading list. It's like Harry Potter and like Tom Clancy. And it's great for me because I'm able to just think about anything but software and technology. And it's really good for me to kind of move my brain outside of that. And then the other thing I do is schedule vacations before you need the vacation. By the time you're like, I need a vacation, it's way too late. And then you go on your vacation and you never end up getting rested anyway. And then you need a vacation from your vacation. And it's just a terrible cycle. So my thing that I've learned is like booking time to go away well before I need to go away. And then I end up enjoying it that much more. So those are two that work for me.
So good. Mine are more like, because this is just how my brain works, like more super tactical.
Yeah.
So in the season of being new parents, we're super lucky that our daughter's daycare is on our same street. But I think that's which we didn't choose, that it was built after we moved there. But we are really, really lucky to have that convenience where it adds literal minutes, like lots of minutes back to our day, because she's just right there. But that concept is how I've been thinking about this season of life, because every second of my day is accounted for. And so I'm constantly thinking, okay, I've got 5 minutes. What can I do? Or what can I outsource or delegate, like as a family? And again, I'm so glad you said that a few minutes ago about like we're fortunate to be in, have the financial freedom to do things like go on vacation, or for me to, outsource different things in our family. But putting that aside, for you to, like, listeners to be thinking, what are the things that I can make more efficient or delegate or put budget towards that are not energizing for me, or get in the way of me being able to have harmony. And so,
And they don't have to be big, complicated things. I've heard someone say one of the ways that they are a better parent when they go home is they sit in their driveway outside their house for 5 minutes to just clear their junk out of their head. So
yeah,
before they walk in the door, they're not walking in on their phone, checking notifications. They're not finishing up a phone call. They kind of have a, what's it called? You're like flushing everything out of your head for 5 minutes in your driveway. So it doesn't have to be these big things. Sometimes it's just like, what's a small, tiny habit that you can that can help work one step closer towards it.
exactly. Or like, this is like super tiny, but like when I'm doing things like chores or unloading the dishwasher, like I love jazz music. So I'll put on jazz music while
Yeah.
I'm doing that, because it's like, how can I make this? To me, that's an example of harmony, right? It's like just a tiny micro example of like this thing that I don't love doing, but has to get done.
Yeah.
How can I bring harmony to it by bringing some joy, into that moment? Or it's been really hot here this summer, but I've been trying to go on more walks. You guys are awesome about that, you and your family, Matt. But it's like, okay, I want to spend time with Iris, but I want to go on a walk. So let's do both of those things together. So just trying to find those moments of harmony where you can combine something productive with something enjoyable is really helpful for me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just that word balance, back to how we started. It's just you're setting yourself up for fail by thinking that you're going to have everything in order. Life just doesn't work that way. I know there's a lot of YouTube videos and TikToks out there about like every day I start with 5 minutes of meditation and 10 minutes of reading and 15 minutes of yoga, followed by my granola and berries and yogurt.
Yeah.
Life is habits and disciplines are great, but life does not work that way. It will throw a wrench into your agenda, and the 2-minute increments that you've got scheduled out throughout the day is just not realistic. But if you can think about harmony, I just think there's something about that word that just sets you up for freedom.
It's so true. And I've learned a lot from our COO and teammate Garrett on this. We are polar opposite personalities. So I'm like all in or nothing. And Garrett is so consistent. Like that's his superpower. And like even in the way that we talk, I'm like full of inflection and he's just like one note Garrett. But I've learned from him, he schedules regular days off ahead of time. So like, I can't remember what it is, but like every quarter he tries to take X number of days. And that's like such his personality, is like Mr. Consistent. Whereas you just made this example, but like a hilarious example of the Tate family trying to take vacation was, we like had on our list that we needed to take vacation a couple years ago, and we put it off. And then finally Southwest Airlines was having a sale. And I'm like, Elliot, like, let's just pull up the app right now and make a decision. And we were like, just picked the cheapest place. And it was like July. And we're like, oh, Charleston, South Carolina sounds fun. So we went from Houston, Texas, like with 105 degrees, to Charleston, South Carolina, 105 degrees and humid. And we were just laughing at ourselves. Like, it's exactly what you said. Like, not really a vacation, because we're miserable there, just like we were at home. And we need to be more like Garrett and like schedule the days ahead of time. So then it's done and you don't have to think about it when it's there. So be more like Garrett and less like Holly to find work-life harmony.
And shout out to Mark also, just for the idea of chief fun officer, of like bringing that approach of like you can bring your full self into the workplace and celebrating the fact that he makes his family such a priority. I think that's friggin' awesome for a guy that's has got an amazing career and built some incredible things and is continuing to do so. He just became a CEO and founder last week. I saw on LinkedIn. I think it's just really cool to celebrate, but being a chief fun officer and focusing on your outside of work as much as inside work is a great thing, and we should celebrate it.
Yeah, and he did say that his kids and his wife were cheering him on and supporting him. And so I've been thinking a lot about that too. Like, as hard as having a baby is, Matt, like we're just at the beginning. It's going to be harder when our kids understand more about, like, oh, mom and dad are going to work and not spending time with me. And so I've been thinking a lot about, and maybe we can interview Mark a couple years from now, and like, how do we bring our kids along on that journey where they can be a part of it and celebrate it and not feel like it's taking away from time with them? I don't know the answer to that right now, but I've been thinking a lot about it as I'm, caring for Iris in this very early stage.
I heard a story literally just yesterday. Kirby on our team, Holly, who leads our sales team, he said that when we hit our record sales number, when was that, a couple weeks back, they took the family out to dinner and celebrated, and he told the kids, this was our goal, this is where we landed, this is what that means, this is what dad did to help make it happen. And they all like cheers their Dr. Pepper glasses and celebrated. I was like, that's crazy that your kid knows you hit a sales. It's like, yeah, we do it all together as a team. And I love that. I thought that was
that is really, really cool. So I don't know that we provided many answers today, but hopefully we, provided vulnerability to help inspire. And then I was inspired by Mark for being chief fun officer of his family. So let's be more like Mark.
Let's do it.
If you enjoyed today's episode with Mark, then you've got to follow him on LinkedIn. So check out today's show notes wherever you're listening to this, where we'll post Mark's LinkedIn so you can connect and follow him, where he posts regularly his own hot takes on company growth and leadership. We'll see you next time on the LeadrPulse Podcast.